Hello there. Welcome back to Daily Codes. I think instead of telling you welcome to back to Daily Codes, I should tell myself welcome back to Daily Codes because I have taken a long time without uploading the long form content. But I've been uploading short form content here and there. So hopefully you've not missed me a lot. Today we are going to look at data validations with I can call it a Python package. Yes, it's a Python package. Not so important, but we'll just look into it, called Great Expectations. My sentiment about Great Expectation is that it's not needed because you can write your data validations using Python directly. But in case one day you find yourself in a code base that is using Great Expectations, then this information will be important for you. So it's better to be prepared than being sorry. Is that what people say? I don't know. Anyway, expectation versus reality. By the end of this session, you should be able to state what Great Expectation is. You should be able to write validation tests for your data using Great Expectations, and you should be able to define and use features of Great Expectations. This session is divided into two videos. So this one that you're watching now is a theoretical one where we're going to go through the foundations of Great Expectations. So it is important for you to go through this. And then the next one will be a practical one where we're going to connect to data sources and do validations through code using Great Expectations. So what is data validations and why do we need to do this data validation? So for us to, first of all, reach there, let's talk about our expectations as data engineers. So if you are a data engineer and your purpose for data engineering project is to deliver quality data for your business when that data is needed. And the key performance indicators are therefore your data quality, data access, data availability, and data usability. So data quality is data that is not riddled with lots of data that is of low quality. For example, you have a gender column. You expect the gender column to be male, female, and then not MF, because we know M will be also representing male and F will be female, but now it will be not as clean as if the whole column was either male or female. Then data access. For example, if an analyst wants to do some kind of analysis on data related to the business, how easy can they gain access to the data? And if they want to do the same analysis, is that data even available? And then when they want to do that analysis, can they use the data that is available? For example, if they want to do sentiment analysis and they have only text, is it usable? Can they use it to do the sentiment analysis? So the key performance indicators for you as a data engineer on a data engineering project is data quality, data access, data availability, and data usability. So we are going to look at the first key performance indicators for this video, which is data quality. And for you to ensure that you have quality data available for your business, you'll need to make sure that you have validation checks on your data. And Great Expectation is one of the libraries that helps you with validation checks. So what is data validation? This is a process of checking for data accuracy, data quality, and consistency by ensuring that that data meets predefined rules. It meets the standards that you have set as a data engineer, as a business, and also it meets the formats that you expect before that data is stored, for example, in a data warehouse, or it's stored where people can access it, and also before that data is used. So that is what data validation is. For example, you want to make sure that all the dates are correct before you store them and before you use them. You want to make sure that the gender column is okay before it is stored and before it is used. You want to make sure that the age range is okay, for example, from 18 to maybe 120 for people who are considered adults, for example, before that age data is used and stored. So that is data validation. Why do we do data validations? When we generate or when we get data and provide the business with data, is so that this data can be used to make data products. And development of these data products is fully dependent on the quality of the data that is used. Whether you have an analytics dashboard, a machine learning model, or a research report, the quality of the underlying data has to be as esteemed as possible. So poor quality data will lead to poor quality data products. So if you have poor quality data, your machine learning model will also be of a poor quality. If you have poor quality data, your analytics report will also be of poor quality, and so forth. So the reasons why we want to do data validations to make sure that we have the best data available for our data products, so that they have the best products from our data. The common issues that we have seen so far with data quality is missing values, wrong data types, outliers, and so forth. And what we need is to make sure that before we store that data, before we provide it for usage and development of data products, is make sure that there are checks, and these checks are automated and they are repeatable. So this is where great expectations come. So Great Expectations is an open source Python library which is built purposefully for data validation. So it helps you with data validation, data documentation, helps you with testing of pipelines, and so forth. And it connects with Pandas, Spark, and SQL. It is a bummer because it doesn't work with polars, and I know lots of projects use polars, but at least it works with this Pandas, Spark, and SQL. So how does it work? Great Expectation connects to the source of your data and then runs your validation. And after running those validations, it can either give you a documentation about your data, give you a report. You can configure it to send you alerts or give you a report. So when I say that you need to know the foundations of Great Expectations, I mean this workflow. So you need to understand this in order to have a good grasp of Great Expectations. So how to set up a Great Expectation environment, how to connect to the data, how to define expectations, and how to run validations. So let's look at each of these foundations. So the data context is the central object that ties everything together in a Great Expectation workflow. You should think of it as a control hub where you define, you organize, and execute all of your data quality operations. It is comparable to like a project manager, where the project manager knows where your data comes from. So that is the data sources. The data context knows where the data sources are. It knows what rules to apply. So those are the expectation suits. It knows how and when to check for those rules. So those are checkpoints and the actions. It knows where to store the results and make them available for reporting. Then the data source is the abstraction that represents your store of data, the data store. It tells Great Expectations how to connect to your data so that Great Expectation can fetch data sets for validations. Next is data assets. It is a specific slice of data inside your data source. So your data source can be let's say a database, and then your data asset will be a table in that database or SQL query result from that. So a data source is like the gateway to your, a data source is the gateway to your data store, and then the data asset is a particular data set within the store that you want to validate. Then batch definition is the recipe for slicing the data set. So it's like these are the instructions on how to slice your data set. It tells Great Expectation how to organize and retrieve data from a data asset at runtime. You should think of it as a set of rules or filters applied to a data asset to yield a batch. Now, we're saying that we're yielding a batch from this set of rules. And now a batch is the actual slice of data that Great Expectation receives from a data asset at runtime using that definition, that recipe that we talked about. So using a batch definition. So that actual slice of data is the batch. So it's a collection of records. Those are rows, for example, from a table, or lines in a file, or objects in a cloud storage. So batches are real data sets. You run expectations against. Talking about expectations, an expectation in Great Expectation in Great Expectation is a verifiable assertion about your data quality. It defines what you believe to be true about your data. Expectations are applied to the batches of data, and they are similar to assertions in unit tests, but written in a declarative style. So expectation is like, I'm expecting the date to be year, month, day. And if it doesn't follow that format, then it fails the expectation. So that's what the expectation is. And then expectation suit is a collection of expectations which are grouped together into a single logical unit. So you have your expectation, for example, for male, female, then you have expectation for date, then you have expectation for age, and then when you group them together, you have the expectation suit. So now we have set up the Great Expectation environment, we have connected to the data, and now we have defined what we expected, and we have grouped them into an expectation suit. Next, we're going to now run these validations against the data. So remember, the batch here is the data, the expectation suit here is now the group of what you're expecting, the validation rules, for example, and then you have connected to the data source here. So now, what is the validation definition? A validation definition is the binding between batch definition and expectation suit. So the batch definition says which data slice to fetch. The expectation suit says what rules to test. And then the validation definitions says validate this data against this rule. So that is the validation definition. Example of a batch definition could be, give me a set of orders from September 2015. An example of expectation suit would be, orders must have non-null IDs, positive amounts, and unique order numbers. And then validation definition would be, validate orders from September 15th against this order quality suit. Then validation result is the result of the validation definition. So is like a structured output that Great Expectation produces after running this validation definition. So it answers the question of, did the batch of data meet the expectations? Then the checkpoint is the operational unit of Great Expectation for running validations in production. It bundles together one or more validation definitions, and then it applies any shared parameters at runtime, for example, and then execute actions after validations. So these actions that checkpoint executes are automated tasks that run after the checkpoint is executed. So it could be send me an email, or maybe fail the runtime, or generate a report, and so forth. Then the documentation or the data docs are human readable or web-based documentation generated by the Great Expectations. So these are the fundamentals of, or the foundations of Great Expectations. I know they are more of theoretical now, but in the next video, I think the one that is now showing in the screen, we are going to connect to a data source, and then we are going to define these validation rules, and then we are going to run validations using Great Expectations. So until the next video, click there. There is nothing like until the next video. It is here on your screen. Click on it. And let's get our hands dirty.